With permission from my son, I have a story that I want to share with you that happened a few years ago. My son is rocking on the edge of his chair, his knees tucked in and his arms are wrapped around his legs. He's pale and physically nauseous, his body rocking back and forth. Each sway clearly shows the emotional distress and overwhelming battle inside. I've just said 7 words that have turned his whole world upside down. These 7 words were, "You get to choose, it's your life." For years, my parenting style had been add guilt, sprinkle in a little silent treatment, manipulate to get the outcome that I wanted, and boom, it was Lucifer's parenting plan. I'm sure you guys might relate and can understand what I'm talking about. I didn't think I was controlling. I thought I was protecting, and I thought if I parented just right, I could guarantee righteousness. And of course, I wanted my kids to be happy. I wanted the best for them, and I wanted to do it the way I thought was best. But despite all of my good intention, this led him to be a people pleaser. He was a very obedient kid, but he got very distant. And instead of peace, I got a son who was depressed. He was hiding and numbing with pornography and video games. And eventually, he became suicidal. He had a plan. That's how far my good parenting had taken us. But I finally saw the truth. And when I did, I knew I had to have a conversation with him. I took him out to Swig for his 18th birthday and I said, "Son, I have been silencing you, withholding love and approval, trying to steer you to what I thought was best, not realizing that in doing so, I was communicating that love was conditional. I thought that I knew what you should choose, and I didn't think I was controlling you, but that is exactly what I have been doing. And I was too afraid to let you choose. I didn't want you to have to deal with the consequences of your choices. And I want you to know that that ends now." The thing is, we had always talked about agency. We taught our kids that they were free to choose. But what I didn't realize was this: the energy behind my words had been fear. What I would say is, "You get to choose," but what I really meant was, "You get to choose as long as it's the right choice, the one that makes me feel better." What they felt wasn't freedom, it was pressure. Fear dressed up as faith. I had been giving them principles with one hand while clutching control with the other. And it wasn't until this moment, sitting across from my son, that I finally meant it. I finally understood and knew how to do it. "You get to choose" now came from faith. Faith in God's plan. Faith in agency. Faith that truth doesn't need to be forced, only given space to be experienced. And then I added something scary. I may accidentally revert back to my old tactics again. If I do, push back. Don't let me steal your choices. Your life is yours. You are the agent that gets to act. And that's when it hit him. There was no one left to blame. And that's when he started rocking, because the weight of freedom that had just landed on his shoulders was too much. It was as if the gift of agency was too heavy to hold, but at the same time, trying to force what I thought was right instead of honoring his divine right to choose was killing him. And it wasn't worth it. Giving your kids freedom doesn't mean throwing out the rules. It means holding love and truth together. I've been working on learning how to parent like that, so in our home, the rules, they still matter. But love, it's not the leverage anymore. And approval, it's not a leash. We keep the rules, we keep the love, but we cut the strings. And that's when everything changed. He began to make real choices, not to rebel, but to explore. He made some decisions that I didn't agree with, big ones. But this new way of parenting opened up doors of communication like never before. I learned for the first time that my son had been experiencing same-sex attraction for as long as he could remember. And a while later, he decided to start a relationship with another boy. In the past, I would have panicked and tried to fix it, maybe even weaponized my disappointment, tried to manipulate him, afraid of where this was leading. But this time, I saw it differently. He wasn't rebelling. He was choosing. He knew where we stood. He knew what we believed, that we were firm in our position. And he knew, most importantly, that we loved him no matter what, that his choices were his. And I discovered something else too. I could feel peaceful sadness instead of suffering. sadness because life can be hard, because I knew this journey he was on is not going to be easy, because I saw the wrestle between what for him feels deeply natural inside and the quiet, persistent call to trust a God who sees the whole story, even when his ways feel harder. Gratefully, peace was the strongest emotion because what God promises us when we stop trying to control others and start trusting instead is peace. I have already buried a brother who felt trapped by other people's plans. That loss taught me what is at stake because the truth is, no one is more trapped than the person who forgets or doesn't believe that they are free to choose. Even in our darkest moments, God whispers, "You are free to choose." That is the divine gift of agency, and it was never mine to take away. Today, our relationship, my son and mine, it is so strong. It's stronger than I ever dreamt it could be. He's honest with me, he's vulnerable with me, and he actually wants to be around me because he knows I'm not trying to make him be the version that I think he should be. And because it was his choice, without me pulling strings, without me leveraging love or approval to get results, he discovered for himself that it wasn't the life he wants to live. That realization didn't come from me. It didn't come from lectures or lessons or loving corrections. It came from his own agency, from the sacred, unviolated space of freedom that I had finally learned to honor. And that is when I knew honoring agency doesn't just heal relationships, it creates the space for truth, truth that isn't forced, truth that roots itself deeply because it wasn't crammed in. It was chosen, and in the end, it wasn't control that made the difference. It was honoring agency. About a year ago, I worked with a client that was in the middle of an affair. She felt torn in two, convinced that walking away from this man would mean walking away from her happiness, her soulmate, her only chance at real love. She had already been to another therapist who told her, "Your kids will be okay eventually." And while that might be true, it wasn't the whole truth because something deeper wasn't being said. She came to me one afternoon and said, with her heart completely shattered open, whispering, crying, "I can't do this. I can't stay, but I can't go either." That night, I knelt down and prayed, "Heavenly Father, what could I possibly say that would help her see through the fog she's in?" The next morning, I wrote with words that I knew came from God, and I wrote her this message. "I have been praying, asking Heavenly Father what I could say to help you through this heart-aching time. I know it hurts so deeply. Right now, it probably feels impossible to ever imagine feeling differently. That darkness feels thick. The way forward feels impossible. But I promise you, when you choose to honor your covenants, you will feel joy again." I reminded her of a moment that she had shared with me, a moment alone in her closet when she realized that she didn't love her husband anymore. And in that painful realization, she made a quiet conclusion: that means I'll never be happy with him. That one thought sparked a whole chain of reactions that led her to this moment right now. She had reached another fork in the road, two paths, each leading towards two lines of thinking. I said that one would lead her towards her husband, her children, and her covenants with a promise of healing and eventual joy. And the other led her to the man that she believed could give her the love that she always wanted, but at the cost of breaking up her family and her promises. And the truth was simple but life changing. The thoughts she chose to believe would determine the path that she walked, because all thoughts eventually lead to the results of our lives. And in that moment, I reminded her that you are not a victim. You are the chooser. You are the agent who acts. You have the God given right and the God given responsibility to choose. Circumstances don't create our feelings, our interpretations do. And so we are clear, I didn't assume the right path was for her to stay. I have learned that God's ways are higher than mine, and I no longer assume that I know what someone else's journey should look like. My role wasn't to steer her towards a specific outcome, but to hold a space for both outcomes. and to trust the Spirit to guide her choice. So I told her, if you want to stay, then you must change your thoughts. They have to shift, even if the feelings aren't there yet. You might not be able to say, I love him today, but you can say, I am learning how to love him. With divine help, you will feel that love again. If you choose the other man, then own that choice, but stop the deception. Stop cheating, end one relationship before beginning another. This message worked because she could feel that I wasn't pushing her towards either decision. I was simply holding up truth to help her see through the fog. And I ended my message this way: take back your power by choosing with clarity. Choose your thoughts intentionally. Choose your path consciously. And trust deeply that joy is not found in escape, but in alignment with God. Your body might resist these new thoughts at first. It may feel unnatural, but with practice, your thoughts will teach your body, and with God, healing will come. You really can be happy again. And a year later, she is doing the quiet, courageous work of repairing her relationship with her husband. It's not easy, but it's real, and it's rooted in truth, not escape. I tell you this story because so many of us stand at similar forks in the road. They may not look exactly the same, but the pattern is tied in truth, not in escape. This is a universal experience that we all face: two lines of thought, two paths ahead, and the sacred power to choose. And when the darkness feels thick, when the future feels impossible, when every option feels like betrayal and a broken heart, that's the moment to pause and remember that you are the chooser. You are the agent who acts, and your thoughts will build the path you walk. With God as your guide, you don't have to see the whole path. You just need to choose the direction. I am so grateful that this message has resonated with so many people. If it resonated with you, join me and Leslie Householder in Payson, Arizona for a 5-day Christ-centered mindset principles in marriage and family retreat. It's going to be April 28th through May 2nd. It's an intimate group with only 15 guests. You'll learn how to speak the truth in love. You'll get tools for connection without control and clear, loving boundaries. All of the information is below. Christmas pricing ends December 6th. If you're on the fence or have questions, comment the word call and I'll set up a quick chat without a sales pitch, just honest help to see if it's a good fit for you. Thanks so much for being here. My son didn't begin to change until I stopped trying to change him. When I finally surrendered him to God fully, he began to feel the weight, the real weight of his decisions. That's what agency does. It teaches, not through lectures, but through the examples of others and through lived experiences. In the early stages of our shift, my husband and I would say the very same things to our son, but his response was different. It wasn't about the words that we said, it was about the energy behind them. But I found that I could speak boldly and he wouldn't take offense. He wouldn't shut down when I would say something. But when my husband would say it, he would shut down. Why? Because the energy was different behind each of our words. He could feel when we were trying to control the outcome, and he could feel when we weren't. Love creates space to stumble, to grow, to wander. It whispers, I'm here not to control you, but to walk beside you. That is connection. That is love without hooks. That is how we honor agency with God. And that's the invitation. If you find yourself trying to force outcomes, trying to manipulate, guilt, or shame someone on their journey, just pause and ask yourself, am I trusting God or am I trusting me and calling it trust in God? Am I trying to protect them from pain or trying to protect myself from the pain that it caused me so that I don't have to feel the pain and watch them go through it? It feels so scary at first. But control is so much heavier. Control, it exhausts you. It closes hearts. Control causes suffering. Surrender, on the other hand, it's light. It's freeing. It creates space for love, for truth, and for God to do his work. It feels so good to let go. Let them use the atonement. Let them stumble. Let them learn. Let them feel the consequences of their choices, not in isolation, but with you close by, steady and safe. Because agency is messy, but God is still there. We have to be willing to let people to mess it up. That is the risk of mortality. That is the plan of redemption. And that's why we have a Savior. We don't honor agency because we expect our kids, our spouses, friends, or even ourselves to choose perfectly. We honor it because we trust that when mistakes happen, when we are ready to turn to God, God's grace will be enough. We trust the process of growth. We trust the power of experience. We trust that agency, even when used imperfectly, is still sacred ground. Sometimes we forget that even righteous desires require us to walk through wild, uncharted territory. But agency is the way that God tutors us. It's the way He shapes our faith, and it's the way that He brings us stumbling, wrestling, falling, learning to where He needs us to be. Because in the end, our peace does not come from our perfection. It comes from our surrender. So this means that we have to get comfortable with a little discomfort and actually a lot of discomfort. Agency is never a straight line. It doesn't always look safe, respectable, or predictable. Sometimes it looks like loss. Sometimes it looks like failure. And sometimes it looks like wandering without answers. And still we trust the Lord is not far. We trust that His voice is still reaching us. We trust that redemption is always part of the plan. And the miracle isn't in the method, it's in the surrender. We don't succeed because we're perfect. We succeed because we keep showing up in the confusion. We stay open to the Spirit, even in the confusion. And that's what we want for all of us. Not perfection, but connection. Not compliance, but divine confidence. And what looks wrong to us may be the very path that leads us back to God. So, if we're going to talk about honoring agency, we have to talk about boundaries. Because when we start to honor agency, we sometimes begin to think that I just have to accept what is and there's nothing I can do about it. But this is where people start to feel powerless and frustrated and angry. Those are the tools of the adversary. He wants us to feel powerless. He wants us to experience frustration, and he wants us to get angry. So we must learn the truth about boundaries and agency. We often confuse boundaries with control, but they are not the same. Control says you must behave this way so I feel okay. But boundaries say you're free to choose and I'm free to respond. We all carry what's been called a manual, a mental rule book for how other people should act. For example, a good spouse should remember anniversaries, a good child should clean their room, and a good neighbor should mow their lawn. And when people don't follow our manual, we try to control, manipulate, guilt, or shame them into compliance. So what do boundaries look like? Honoring agency doesn't mean there are no rules. It means that rules are held with love and truth, not control. A boundary is never about forcing someone else's behavior. It's about deciding what you will do in response. So let's go back to my client in the affair. She wasn't being forced by her husband to stay. In fact, he had an incredible capacity to honor her agency. She even has said that if he had not, it definitely would have pushed her straight into the other man's arms. She wasn't being coerced by me or by God. She was free to choose. But the moment that she realized that her peace was not dependent on someone else's actions, only on her own alignment with truth, she began to feel power again. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. That's what boundaries are all about. They're about reclaiming your power to act with integrity and clarity. So the tool is simple. Let them make their choices, even if they're messy. Let me decide what I will do, how I will feel, and how I will show up. When we stop running everyone else's manual, we open the door to revelation. We respond with clarity, not control. And that is when peace and connection return. So here's the takeaway: boundaries protect love and truth, control destroys it. Honoring agency means we stop trying to manage other people's choices and start managing our own. When I say you are free to choose and I am free to respond, I am finally aligned with God's plan. On the night of the Last Supper, Jesus did something unthinkable. He washed the disciples' feet, including Judas's. He knew Judas was about to betray him. He knew Judas had already sold him for 30 pieces of silver, and yet he knelt before him, washed his feet, broke bread with him, and even called him friend. Jesus knew Judas would betray him. He even foretold it. He knew Judas was stealing from the money bag. He knew Judas was entertaining thoughts of betrayal. And yet Jesus didn't manipulate him into staying loyal. He didn't guilt him, shame him, or threaten him. He didn't ask why or beg him to change, because love without agency is control. His friend and disciple betrayed him, but Jesus loved Judas enough to let him choose, even though that choice would wound him to the core, even though it would send him to the cross. As parents, spouses, children, brothers, sisters, leaders, and friends, we sometimes think that our love means preventing pain. But Jesus shows us that real love creates space for freedom, even freedom to walk away. He trusted the Father's plan so completely that he didn't need to control Judas's choices. So how do we honor agency like that? When I honor agency like Jesus, I stop trying to rescue people from the consequences of their choices. I stop confusing control with love. And I realize that trusting God's plans means releasing my plan. It doesn't mean betrayal or sin doesn't hurt. Of course it does. But it means I can stand steady in love even when someone else's choices breaks my heart. My son and my client's stories show us that agency is messy, but God is still there. Judas's story shows us that agency can devastate, and God is still there. And in both, the lesson is the same. Honoring agency doesn't guarantee outcomes. It guarantees alignment with God's way of working with us. It's easy to look at Judas and think, how could he? But if we're honest, truly honest with ourselves, Judas represents all of us. We all think that we know best sometimes. We all try to tell God how he should solve our problems and do it in the way that we think that he should solve them. We all wrestle with him wanting to do it our way instead of surrendering to his. Judas wanted the kingdom his way: political power, safety, money in the bag, a Messiah who would fit his manual the way things should be. And when Jesus didn't fit that plan, then Judas wanted to push his plan. And don't we all do the same? Lord, fix my child this way. Lord, change my spouse this way. Lord, prevent the mess, prevent the pain, and make it look the way that I think it should. We mean well, but like Judas, we cling to control instead of trusting the Father's perfect plan. When I look at Judas, I see my own stubbornness, my own flawed plans, my own desperate attempt to play God. And when I look at Jesus, I see the only one who keeps loving me anyway. The one who says, I know you'll stumble. I know you'll try to take control, and I'll still wash your feet. I know you'll resist surrender, and I'll still break bread with you. I know you'll betray me in small and large ways, and I'll still call you friend. If the Savior could love Judas like that, he can love me like that too. And if he can love me in my stubbornness and control, then I can trust him to love my son in his struggle in finding his way. I don't have to force outcomes anymore. I don't have to make my son fit my manual. I just have to love him and trust that Jesus' plan is better than mine. When I was trying to control my son, trying to force him into the version that I thought was best, I was telling God, this is the plan. I've got it all figured out. And then I was pleading with God to make it work this way. I thought I was protecting him. I thought I was saving him, but really I was clinging to my own flawed manual, my version of how his life should work. I wanted Jesus to fit my plan instead of trusting his. One night, I was kneeling next to my bed, talking to God about circumstances in my own life, and I remember pleading with God, please help me find a solution other than the one that's presenting itself. I remember trying one path and the answer was no, so I tried another path and the answer was no. I had been searching for other possibilities, believing with all my heart that with God nothing is impossible. And as I sat pondering and meditating, I felt uninspired, unable to vision, almost like I didn't know how. So before going to bed, I asked God to show me the way forward in a dream. And I woke up having received that dream. I was in a large room and there were tables and chairs everywhere. And my job was to arrange them so that all of them would fit. I diligently began the task, sure that I would be successful. I kept trying and trying, but no matter what I did, nothing was going to work. And then I woke up. I knew right away what it meant. It was time to surrender. I had faithfully tried every avenue, every possibility, believed in it, expressed gratitude for it, creating it with God, finding joy, hope, and peace on the journey. But for reasons only God knew at the time, he was saying no. He was saying yes to something better. It was time to surrender. And now that I know the reasons why, I am so grateful that he told me no. I am so grateful that I surrendered. I would have forced an outcome that would have prevented my son from having the experiences that he needed. That moment brought me back to the seasons of my own life. My mother's death, my brother's suicide, my miscarriages, times when surrender was forced on me because I had no control. But this was different. God wasn't forcing surrender. He was asking me to choose it. So I did. I laid it down, and as soon as I did, peace returned. The burden that I had carried for months lifted, and I realized it again that surrender isn't giving up. It is giving in to the one who knows the way. Surrender feels scary at first, but control is heavier, and in surrender, I found freedom. Applying these laws and principles has completely changed my life, and now I help others do the same. I've had the privilege of coaching and guiding many people as they learn how to apply these powerful truths in their own lives. I've expressed to God, if he wants me to continue this work, I need a way to do it that isn't all-consuming. I prayed and I believed in the possibility of blessing many lives while still honoring my role as a wife, a mother, a homeschooler, and eventually a grandma. And in response, God gave me a unique vision. And then, believe it or not, a real life jackrabbit showed up to help me make that vision possible. A few years ago, in the middle of the night, my son was jolted awake by a loud thumping sound on his basement window. He sat up, his heart racing, and slowly crept towards the noise. There in the moonlight were two long ears, wild eyes, and fur pressed against the glass. Alive and panicked, a jackrabbit was hammering its body against the window, trying to escape. Connor grabbed a garbage can and he caught it. And by morning, he was beaming, holding this twitchy-eared creature, eager to show the rest of us. For our family, it wasn't just a rabbit. Months earlier, we had been reading the Jackrabbit Factor together and learning that jackrabbits are a metaphor for the things that you want most, the dreams that you're chasing. Sometimes when you live by faith, you don't chase the rabbit, it comes to you. And that night, one literally came pounding on our window. To me, it wasn't coincidence. It was reassurance. God sees my son. He is aware of him, and I don't have to make everything happen by force. My job is to live in faith and let God deliver the experiences and opportunities he needs, even if they come in wild and unexpected ways. Months later, I sent that photo and story to Leslie Householder herself, not knowing where it would lead. She didn't know me then. And so when I shared a vision of building a Christ-centered AI project and community based on hers and others' works, she kindly let me know that she probably wouldn't be able to look at it for 8 months. 8 months. Wow, I was like, "That's not gonna work. My vision is coming sooner." So I kept sharing the vision, kept talking, and by the end of our conversation, she said the very thing that I had envisioned in gratitude and prayed for before it ever happened. "I'm in." That jackrabbit didn't just open a window, it opened a door, a miracle of connection, a reminder that when we live by faith and honor agency, God delivers more than just dreams. He delivers the people we need at exactly the right time. So, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here for a second. I think Leslie, has my screen been sharing or not?
It has been, and I just turned it off.
Perfect. Okay. I was like, I'm not sure how to turn it off. So, I haven't been looking at the chat if anybody's been having any thoughts or questions they're wanting to share with me or ask me or have any uh questions about what I've shared so far.
I'm seeing a lot of comments, awesome points being made. I'm not seeing any questions yet. Guys, if you have any questions for Amber, go ahead and drop them in the chat.
And let me pull the chat up so I can see it. Yes, I love some of the comments here. Agency, when used perfectly, is still sacred ground. Yes, I know these things have been so dear to my heart and have been so important to me. If nobody has any questions, I'm gonna share a little bit about this AI project that Leslie and I have been working on.
I'll
Uh,
do it.
okay, perfect. Then I'm gonna start sharing my screen again. Give me just a second. I think that's it. Is it sharing?
Uh, Almost. Yes, it is. And by the way, we do have a question. My son is choosing not to choose. How can I help him make the choice?
You can't.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
definitely,
choice, isn't it? Right there. He chose
yeah,
not.
yeah, and that's but the beautiful thing is when you can truly honor his agency, when you can truly come to him, loving him where he's at, and not have an energy of control, it will draw him to you. It happens naturally, and and then when you're in that space, when you have that relationship with them, like I said, you'll be able to speak boldly. You'll be able to say things and they're not offended or feel like you're trying to manipulate them. They don't get that energy from you anymore. And so then they open up and they're willing to talk. And it allowed us to have some really hard conversations because my energy had shifted completely. Does that answer that question? Does that help?
Yeah, she said maybe how to help him feel safe to make the choice. I think you addressed that. Uh, but I think at the root of it is to also over on our side be okay if they don't choose, right?
Right. Just like, Christ was willing to let Judas do what he was going to do. I mean, that to me, it's just so profound. Such an example. He was willing to let Judas do what he did, and he still was washing his feet, and he was still his friend. Sorry.
Absolutely. Deanna said this was something I really needed to hear and be reminded of. Thank you. Mary said it is a lot to think about. As much as I am devastated by the choices of my family, I must respect their right to choose for themselves.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, it's that honoring agency, that letting people choose. Um, you have to really be in a mental place where you understand and you really trust God's plan. We trust the plan of salvation. We trust that they're willing to turn back to God when they're ready. And we cannot do it by force. And God shows us that example. It is by choice. It is this the way he guides us is just letting people choose. He doesn't force. He never does. And all our energy is felt. It is so felt, you guys. You think that you're having your own little private conversation in your head, but people feel it. They know what you're thinking just based off of how the energy that's coming off of you. Any other questions?
Monica says, love them no matter what they choose. Baden say, something my boys taught me and others when they were teenagers was this motto or statement they and their friends came up with and even made t-shirts with this acronym LUCE, loving unconditional changes everything.
I love
And I've
that.
beautiful.
And the unconditional love, I kind of want to just address a little bit because God puts conditions on us. Um, and he has there's laws that are put forth, like we've learned this whole week. There are certain laws, and when we live by those laws and principles, there are certain outcomes. His love is always there. It's always there. And he's not ever gonna walk away from us. But his freedom, his healing, his help is waiting for us as soon as we turn to him, as soon as we surrender to him and say, all right, I'm here. I'm ready. I'll do it. Whatever that may look like. All right. Um, so Good is a Christ-centered app that turns what you learn today into what you live tomorrow. Put an emoji in the chat if you guys have ever experienced where you've gone to events like this. You go home and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. I know this is going to make a difference in my life. And then a week later, you're stuck and you're like, I don't know what to do. Well, what we've created is this incredible resource. And we have different people that we've been working with. Leslie, obviously, we have an AI assistant that we have created using her works. Um, Leslie, what are all the works in Abby?
It contains Hidden Treasures, Heaven's Astonishing Help with Your Money Matters. It contains Jackrabbit Factor and Portal to Genius and even Mindset Mastery.
Awesome. Yes. And I have been using Abby, testing her, and she is amazing. She works so well. Her output is incredible. And you can ask her questions. In fact, I put through my presentation today several different ways. I used Abby. I used Dennis's there. His is looking unto Christ in every thought, doubt not, fear not, defeating fear, doubt, and discouragement. I used both of them as I put in different parts of my presentation, and I said, okay, I like how I want to make this point. What is the best way I can say that? And it helps me to create these beautiful words and the beautiful energy. And it was just so neat to be able to work with them and get get across what I was wanting to show you guys, what's in my heart, and have the words to say it. And so we also have a 12-step healing through Christ addiction recovery assistant. We have another one that will be coming in a couple months that is for those family members who have people in addiction because they need help and support too. There's all sorts of different facets of needs and different areas that we need. And so we've created an app where all of these are housed, and we are this is the first time that this is being introduced. You guys are very lucky to be able to be the first to hear about it. And we're looking for beta testers. And so I'll put a link in the chat for anybody who is wanting to try it out and also get founder member pricing. And it will for life. It won't change if you guys sign up and start helping out, trying it out, testing it for us. So this is just a few of the different pages on our app. This first page shows you who our content creators are. And then when you click on the Your AI Coach model, it goes to this second page and it has all of our different AI assistants. So we have 4 in here. You saw 3 on that first page. That Abby Tools is another one that Leslie and I have created. And Leslie, if you'll go ahead and tell us what's in that one.
Yeah, so those of you who have been through Mindset Mastery know that there is that whole goal statement review process that is how to create your goal statements so that you're not sabotaging yourself. Because, like we heard earlier, the part of our mind that sets the goal is not the same part of mind that accomplishes it. And when we try to set and achieve it with our conscious mind, both processes, we're going to be disappointed. The Abby Tools walks you through the goal statement review. So you can put your goal statement in there and it will give you the feedback based on the principles in Mindset Mastery. Um, there's something to be said for having a live person that can work with you back and forth on it, but Abby Tools comes really, really close.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also in our app, we're going to have live events, and that's what that third one is representing, where we can actually have classes in the app and different events that we'll be hosting in there. And just wanting to bring together a lot of resources, kind of like what we've seen this week, where you have a lot of different people bringing in beautiful thoughts and ideas and different views of seeing them and helping us to kind of grasp these concepts and these principles that are life changing. So, for individuals, if you want a Christ centered tools to overcome anxiety, worry, and old patterns, and to live rare faith as a co creator with God, this is for you. For practitioners, coaches, mentors, counselors, use So Good to plan sessions, plan draft outlines, and posts, deepen mastery, and serve more people. And eventually, we'll have an affiliate program for anybody who shares it. So, what we're looking for is we're looking for beta testers, we're looking for help to test our app. We're also looking for teachers, so anyone that wants to present a class in our app. And then we're looking for content creators, so anybody like Leslie and Dennis, individuals who have content that would like consider to be created as an AI assistant. You guys can apply. We'll have a link for that as well, to be added. And we want to grow this community. We want it to have different niche experts in it, and some of those could be like marriage, chronic pain, LGBTQ, health and diet, trauma, grief, parenting, like all of these different things. We want to have the different sources that will be in the app. Does somebody have a question? No. Okay. So, do I have 5 minutes?
Almost. Yeah, she did.
Sorry, what?
I just fixed some non-muting issues here. We're good.
Okay, so I have 5 minutes left. And I'll while I'm gonna play a song for you guys, but while that's playing, I'll drop some of the link in the chat. Um, but this has been amazing to be working with Leslie. The resources are incredible, and using these assistants are just phenomenal. And it's really to me, it was so exciting to get an AI assistant using these resources that are founded in truth. They're safe. There's so much that's not safe about using different resources out there with ChatGPT and just different things. My son's actually on a mission. He messaged me, I can't sleep. He's really struggling. And I was like, oh, how do I get him some of these resources? Because I know that he goes to like the Messenger chat bot and he's talking to it, trying to get some feedback and some help. And I was like, don't do that. That's not safe. Come to this. I wish I could send it to him, but their phones are so limited. But anyways, I'm gonna see if I can find a way to get him that and all the missionaries. But excuse me. So I'm going to share a song with you that, will you stop sharing my screen, Leslie? How do I get that out of here? Whoops. I did not want to do that. Okay. So this song is one that I listened to one day after my workout. I have a list of songs I listen to, and this workout is my favorite thing in the whole world. I love it. I have music that helps me to feel grateful, to envision, to see the tender mercies of God. And I go through this whole thing, and I just absolutely love this workout. And I finished my workout, and this song came on. It wasn't a part of my playlist. It was like the playlist. It's by Torrin Wells, called Take It All Back. And when I heard it, I just had the most righteous anger come out of me because I had seen what the adversary does and destroying lives when we believe his lies. And this song was talking about taking back that power, no longer believing the lies, no longer living in the shame and the guilt, and really calling upon Jesus to help us. So I want you as you listen to it, I want you to really consider, what has Satan taken away from you? Is he taken away your joy, your motivation, your energy, your right to choose, connection with God, with spouse, with a child? What is it that he's taken away from you? And what have you felt inspired to do this week? Um, and I want you to envision yourself doing that. I want you to recommit. Is it recommit to God? Is it recommit to your spouse? Is it to create something? Is it to seek forgiveness? Is it to honor agency, to live in faith and leave fear behind? Is it to, what is it that you have felt inspired to do? And as you listen to this, I just want you to feel the power that comes into our lives when we call upon God, when we use Him to help us and make the difference, and no longer letting Satan ruin our lives, no longer letting the chatter in our head. He used to be center stage in my mind, and I broke free. And that is what I want. That's what So Good is all about. That's what Leslie's all about. That's what all of us are all about, is to break free from the adversary, from his lies, from his deceptions, and live in joy and hope and peace. So I'm going to play that song, and just thank you for letting me be here. It's been a pleasure. This has just been a wonderful, wonderful week. I have to share again, and I'm really kind of slow at it. Give me a second. Okay. Do you see a music thing?
Yes.
Okay. Nope, that's not the song. Hold on. That was what I was listening to this morning.
Fears got me living with the lights out, chained down like a prisoner in my own house. Shame cycles like a deadly medication. I try but I can't change my situation, cause that liar comes to rob my joy. Yeah, I'm bruised but I'm not destroyed. I'm rising like an army, and you're gonna hear the sound. I'm calling the angels down. I'm storming the gates of hell. Tell the devil he don't own my soul. I'm taking back what the enemy stole. I'm raising the battle cry. I'm holding the banner high. With the power of the Holy Ghost, I'm taking back what the enemy stole. You can't speak your lies over my family, no. You can't break the promises that I'm standing on. Ain't got a flex to put you back in your place now. One name is all I gotta say, Jesus. I'm calling the angels down. I'm storming the gates of hell. Tell the devil he don't own my soul. I'm taking back what the enemy stole. I'm raising the battle cry. I'm holding the banner high. With the power of the Holy Ghost, I'm taking back what the enemy stole. We're done with all the mind games you try to play. If it ain't clear yet, I want everything you took from me. In the name of the one who is peace, the one who heals our disease, the only reason that I am free, that name is Jesus, Lord of lords and King of kings. Jesus, the name that makes the demons flee. I want it all now, we're taking it back now. Yeah, you know it's going down when you hear the sound. I'm calling the angels down. I'm storming the gates of hell. Tell the devil he don't own my soul. I'm taking back what the enemy stole. I'm raising the battle cry. I'm holding the banner high. With the power of the Holy Ghost, I'm taking back what the enemy stole.
There it is. I absolutely love that song. It just fuels my soul with joy, with courage, with faith, with power, and that is what I really want everyone to know, that they have within them. They have a God-given right to choose and ability to bring peace and hope back into our lives. Our Savior has suffered for us already. He has suffered all of these things that we are suffering, that we are carrying, and we don't need to. Hand it over to Him and live in peace and joy and hope. Thank you, Leslie.
Oh, Amber, thank you so, so much for such a powerful and important message and the truth. You've just absolutely declared the truth, and I think we all could feel that and feel the Spirit confirming those truths to us. What a beautiful way to parent, to be in relationships, to view other people. And it's fascinating to me because we care so much about our loved ones. And it's a revelation to discover and realize that it's not just okay to let them, but it's what we absolutely need to do for God's purposes. We have to do it. That's His plan. And what a great reminder.